So I've been building voice AI systems for well over 6 months now, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about how young this technology is, it's actually a fair amount. And we've gotten so good to the point that even Leah Motley, one of the biggest players in this space, has put us as one of the 16 best voice AI agencies in the entire world. So I feel like my knowledge when it comes to this stuff is, I'd say, above average. Now, why am I making this video? Well, I really wanted to dive deeper into why your voice prompts actually suck in reality and how it can hinder your business if you're a business owner. And there's 3 core aspects that I want to cover in this video that explain just that. Number 1, you're not considering every single edge case scenario in your voice prompts. You probably go into ChatGPT or Claude and you ask it, hey, can you make me a prompt for my business and whatever business related activities that is? The problem with that is you're not considering every edge case scenario that the voice agent could handle. And in this day and age, a lot of people, even if it's a real human, they're going to get these calls, they're going to call these people, and they're going to ask them stupid things because that's just how people are. And when your voice agent isn't tuned to handle stupid questions or 180 questions, it can do a lot of different things. And one of those things is basically tarnishing your brand image, and that's not good for anyone. So that's one of the things that your voice agents probably suck at without you even realizing, is that you just don't consider every single scenario. And that's a problem because 1, it takes a very long time to actually consider every single edge case scenario. And 2, it's even harder to route it. There's so many different possibilities that could happen when you're on a call with a voice agent that it would just take way too long to figure out the voice agent should do this when the person says that sort of thing. Number 2, you haven't actually set up the voice AI routes for specific scenarios. You've kept the instructions very broad. To be completely honest, a lot of people that I see, they keep their instructions so broad, and it's not great. Your voice agent needs to be orchestrated in a way that is able to route specifically to different scenarios based on the context. A lot of prompts don't do that, and this causes a lot of issues. Number 1, you have hallucination from the voice AI agent, which isn't great. This basically hallucination, if anyone doesn't know, is the AI basically comes up with stuff without you even telling it to. And 2, you can't fine-tune the voice AI properly, tailor to your company's brand image and actually be useful. Like a lot of people that I see when they make voice AIs for their businesses or for themselves is that it's just this odd cog in the system that doesn't actually merge into their existing business. It's got this weird thing that just exists and it doesn't really breathe the life of your business. It's weird. And number 3, your prompts are too long. The one problem that I see, if you take these 2 steps and you actually take action on it and actually consider every edge case scenario, every routing opportunity, is that your prompts are just too long, and that ends up causing hallucination anyway, because it's too long. It doesn't understand the context. Your response times are longer, the AI is less accurate. So, Ali, how do you actually fix this? Well, great. I'm glad you asked. Vappy has recently just announced their new workflow beta, and we're going to be using that to basically orchestrate the different conditions and the different scenarios that a voice agent can actually handle, and why I think this is a game changer. Let's actually just get straight into it here. And we're on Vappy for this one. And if we type in vappy.ai and you go to the dashboard, this is a feature that I haven't really touched upon that much inside of my videos. But if you see down here, the workflow section, well, basically Vappy has announced their new workflow beta, and it's pretty good, but there's a few things that I want to basically address at the time of recording this video that I think honestly needs to be fixed. Like, if anyone from Vappy is watching this, please, for the love of God, fix this. But basically, I'm going to save you all the headache of actually building out this system, and I'm going to show you something very basic that I did. So this is I say test appointment setter. In reality, this should actually just be a lead qualifier. I'm going to zoom in so your brain doesn't get super confused at all these different routing options I've made. But what I've done here is for an inbound call, we're going to specify on inbound calls. Obviously, you can make this outbound calls if you want to, doesn't really matter. We basically have the agent saying, hey, thanks for reaching back to us. I wanted to ask you one quick question. It'll only take 1 minute. Do you mind? And for context, this is basically an insurance agent that is responding to people who call back asking them, hey, when was the last time you reviewed your insurance? So basically what we want to do is we want to gather the interest of the user. And this is really cool because what we can do is we can basically specify in here the interest classification, determine user interest in hearing the voice agent's question. It's going to give us either interested if the user is interested in hearing what the agent has to say, or not interested, it just doesn't really care. And because of that, we basically add conditions. Now, one thing I want to cover is the fact that I didn't even cover what any of these are. So let me quickly make a new workflow. We'll call this one test, just to show you what these different blocks are. When you start a new workflow, you always get granted with this basic setup. And if you see down here, you have the plus icon. And there's 6 different types of steps that you can make. Say, the voice AI prompt is going to say, condition logic gate, which can route to 2 different options, or even 3 different options if you really want to. Gathers specific information that the assistant will use, so criteria to basically go down a certain condition route, which you'll see later in the video. And what we have here, I think, is API request. So you can make native API requests inside of the workflow, but I'll show you later in this video why I don't really do that because it's kind of crappy. Transfer call, pretty straightforward if you want to transfer the call to an actual person, and then end call so it can actually end the call. So now that you can understand that, we can go back into this workflow real quick. I want to gather the user's interest. So are they interested in hearing what we have to say? And there's 2 conditional pathways. Obviously, 1 is they're interested, and then 2 is they're not interested. Now we're going to go down the interested route just because it's a little easier. And then the agent, great. I just wanted to ask, when was the last time you reviewed your insurance? Then you gather more information about the user as to when was the last time they pretty much reviewed their insurance. And what I put here is there's 2 conditions. Number 1, they've reviewed it recently, and voice agent will try and build some more rapport, try and sell them more, basically be like, hey, are you currently satisfied with the quality of your insurance? And we gather even more information. And if they are satisfied with their insurance, we basically route it to great rest of the day, which is what this thing does as well. If the user is not interested, it just routes them to have a great rest of the day because we're not interested in talking to them. And then if we go down to this logic flow, which is them haven't reviewed the insurance in quite a while, we get the voice agent to say, I see, and what particularly are you not satisfied about? And this also just leads down the same logic gate as this one. We gather their insurance status, so whatever problems they're facing with the insurance or something they wish that they could fix that they haven't already fixed. And then we can tell you, how about we get you in touch with one of our advisors and they can help you out. And we basically gather interest about that. And it could be like, oh yes, this is great, please. Or I'm not particularly ready right now, maybe in a few hours. So basically, if they're ready to call the advisor, what we can do is at logic to transfer the call straight to the advisor. So accurate, there's no fluff. It's literally this gateway. And if they're obviously just not available at the current time, well, no worries. Our advisor will call you back at a later time and will send you a text message of his phone number just so you're aware. Do you have any questions? And then obviously we gather any information as to if they have any questions. And then it pretty much just goes from there. Now, why am I actually saying this? Well, Vappy has basically announced this logical workflow, and I have a few key issues with it. Number 1, this workflow is extremely buggy. If I go back into here and I try and press save changes, it's going to come up with an error telling me it doesn't actually save the changes. And this is a huge issue because sometimes the logic gates flip. Sometimes they literally change. And when I try testing the voice agent, it doesn't work properly. And I wonder, why doesn't it work properly? And it's because it just doesn't, like, the logic gates just flipped because it's bugged, which isn't great. Now, why am I saying all this? And if you've just been so confused at what I've just talked about, stick around to the end of the video. I'll be going a bit more in depth in how this actually works. But the core feature that I wanted to get out of this is you can build out your logic very simply, right? The more detailed, the better in these gather nodes. And by the way, if you don't know how to make a gather node, basically you put in the step, you click specify manually, you put in the name you want to do, which in this case I've done review, and then description of what the voice agent should actually grab from this. And obviously I just put this as output required. You can make this a string, number, Boolean is just like true or false logic. And obviously the more descriptive your description is, the better. The main thing that I really want to get out of this is if you come up to here in the top right, you see code. And code basically maps out the entire workflow in a code-like structure in JSON. And this is great for a few reasons. This is really freaking awesome for a few reasons. One, at the time of recording this video, the Vappy workflows is not that great, so you can't just rely on this to actually work properly. So what we do is we basically take this JSON. What I've done is I've gone into ChatGPT and I've given it this document I made of the ultimate voice AI prompting guide. By the way, if you want me to make a video on this, let me know because it's freaking awesome. And we basically tell it, rewrite this JSON code into a voice AI prompt utilizing the core fundamentals illustrated inside of the ultimate voice agent prompting guide I've given you. And then we basically just chuck in the JSON code. So we can take this prompt that the AI has given us, utilizing the Ultimate Voice AI Prompting Guide, and we can copy this and go into Vappy and create a new assistant and basically just chuck it into here. And now you literally have your draft for your voice agent that's so much better than if you were to just go into ChatGPT and just ask it a basic set of instructions. This works so much better than just putting it in ChatGPT, and I cannot emphasize enough how this is literally just game-changing for businesses. Now, obviously, you're going to have to go into here, and obviously this is a draft, so you're going to have to go into here and play around with a few things, maybe add some extra scenarios, maybe change the tonality of the voice agent so it actually aligns with your company image. But I think for a first draft, this is amazing. This is the best that you could possibly get. Now, I want to go back into workflows real quick and just specify, as a test one I was doing, just specify here everything that I've done and how this all works. So I'll quickly go through the actual steps themselves so that you guys kind of get an understanding of what we're actually using here. So say there's basically two options. You can either create a mini prompt, or you can just do an exact phrase that the voice agent can say. And in this case, I've gone ahead and actually just done an exact prompt for every single one because it's just easier, and obviously it decreases hallucination because it's literally just following a step-by-step prompt. Then, obviously, we gather the interest. Now, this one is really long, which is fine. I found that even though the interest description can be long, it doesn't actually add that much latency. It's pretty decent. Condition, obviously, you just want to set your logic. So in this case, what this would actually look like is follow this path if all of the following conditions match. Then you would add a logic condition. In this case, the only logic condition we have is interest. So we choose interest. We can either make it equal, contains, or not. In this case, we want to make it equal to interested because that's what we specified inside of this description. Obviously, you can change this however you want. You don't have to do interest or not interested. Do whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't even matter, to be honest, because this is too buggy to even use properly. Look, it literally just disappeared, so I can't really rely on it. The code doesn't disappear, though. The code is fine. I don't know why. The code is fine, but that's whatever. So we've basically gone over scatter condition. End calls literally just hangs up. There's nothing inside of it. And the transfer call, you can obviously add a phone number. This is not a real phone number. Please do not call this phone number. It is not a real phone number. I think everything. I didn't cover API requests just because I don't actually find it that useful. Other than the fact that if you want to send data to an external server like mate.com or N8N, you can do that as well. That's perfectly fine. Say we get to the end of the call and you want to add a basically webhook. You can do that right here. This doesn't have to just be an API. This can also just be a webhook. So let's say if you want to go into N8N real quick, and we were to actually build out a Vappy workflow, which I have here, we can basically take this webhook and we can actually just put it inside of here. That's good. Obviously, in your body, you're going to need specific values that the agent gather and then send to the webhook. But other than that, it's pretty damn simple. And I guess the only data you would want to gather, interest, who they are, the questions they've asked, and you can chuck that inside of an Airtable, and it's quite simple. I'm not going to do it in this video, just because that kind of defeats the purpose of this video, but I think you guys get the core idea. Anyways, that's basically it for this video. Like I said, link in the description if you want to get in touch with me or my team to actually build out one of these fully fledged AI systems and infrastructure for your business. Link in the description. Check out our website. It's freaking awesome. And without further ado, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.